The Fairly Normal Tale of a Fairly Normal Girl by Julia Martinez. My purple magenta socks raced across the wet surface of the rough concrete, my clothes close to soaking. I had thrown my Converse off moments before, deciding I couldn't waste any time to tie them. My breath came out in pants, forming a small cloud in front of me each time I exhaled. A bright light suddenly pierced the darkness in front of me, only giving me enough time to step out of the way. I stared at the retreating image of the car, thinking of the possibilities that might have happened. Lola could have been hit, darn dog. No, that can't happen, not like Goblin. Tears started swelling in my eyes at the thought. I turned around to continue running when the one thing I was trying not to think about happened. I got hit. Suddenly, I was sensitive to the details of my surroundings. Each little raindrop falling from a cloud, the individual leaves on every single branch in my yard, the teenager with zits scattered over his face, braces, and a name tag pinned on a bright orange shirt labeled John C. The 142 dots of water that spread across his windshield. The darkness that engulfed me. I woke up to the exact opposite. Whiteness above, below, and side to side was all I could see. What I could feel, though, was a different matter. The pain in my head seemed to radiate to the rest of my body. The most in my head, the least in my feet. Even my hair hurt. I tried to groan or even make a sound at all, but nothing came out. I was silent for the first time in my life. I looked around the room to find my mother asleep on a chair to my left. I opened my mouth again, only to be rewarded with silence. Then I started to panic, shaking the hospital bed, yet stopping after a few seconds because it hurt. My eyes wandered to the table next to my mother's chair to find a stack of books and a paper reading Gemma, Female, 13, Car Crash, etc. If only I could reach one of the books. They were my only silent comfort. At school I was always teased for my love of reading, yet I ignored every single one. Well, the ones from guys are my close friends. The guys were just flirting, and my friends were just being my friends. The others, I have to say, hurt. Of course, not as much as the pain I'm in now. I closed my eyes again and thought about nothing particular, my mind galloping from one thing to another. My dad in the city over with my little half-sister Mackenzie, my friends at my school doing algebra and learning about astronomy, my friend Zarn having no one to sit by or talk with or laugh with on the bus, my poor saxophone not being played. A sharp knock on the door startled me from my thoughts, and apparently my mom, because she got up from the chair to answer the door. "Is she awake yet?" I heard a voice pierce the awful silence. She yawned. "I don't know. I had been sleeping and she obviously hadn't said anything." They turned around to look at me. I quickly made up my mind to not wake up yet. My eyes were closed when they glanced over at me. I heard them each settle into a chair after a few minutes. I slowly opened my eyes and put a look of pain on my face, which was far too easy because it was real. "Oh, sweetie." My dad immediately jumped up from his chair with the mom behind him. "How are you feeling?" he asked with a loving look on his face. I was suddenly out of breath and winced at the pain that formed in my chest when I tried to breathe. "Hurts everywhere." I squeezed my eyes shut. "Nurse!" My mother quickly walked out of the room. "What do you remember, honey?" he asked me, now sitting in a chair once again. I was all I got out before he decided to interrupt. "Oh, I'm sorry. I'll let you rest some more." I managed a small smile. I fell asleep once again in the peace. The first day of 7th grade was a nightmare. Almost. I started the day off with Algebra 1, an 8th grade class, one of the downsides to being smart. I only knew a few people from extracurriculars, and the teacher was a vampire. Not kidding. He had short, black, spiky hair, an earring, and was extremely pale. That class wasn't too bad. The only lousy thing is that we needed to bring our binder, workbook, and humongous textbook each and every day to class. Guess I'll be losing a few pounds. I had language arts next. Most of my friends were in that class, including one I had only met at the end of my 6th grade year in technology. Her name was Beth. She loved sci-fi like I did. After we found out that fact, we were instantly friends. Anyway, my second class. I had a headache by then, so when an annoying guy named Eric started singing about how wonderful our teacher, Mrs. Bobbe, was, I just tried to ignore it and turned to my book for comfort. Period 3 was social studies. That period passed peacefully, and so did science. Art was fine, and all band did was increase my headache. That day, overall, was horrible. A headache all day, stressing over my 8th grade class, and plenty of homework, especially for the first day of school. Then, having no one to sit by on the bus. My friends Grant and Carl are sitting together, so I can't sit with either of them. I decided to sit next to a guy named Caesar. To me, one of those people where you can match the name to the face, but you don't really know them. So I plopped down my Norvis blue and black studded backpack. Hi. Can I sit here? I'm gonna sit here. Why'd you bother asking me if you weren't gonna let me answer? He asked, looking up from his phone. More polite that way, I said back to him, a smile on my face. Whatever floats your goat. Huh? Internet. Oh, I've heard of that place. What's it like? I asked sarcastically. It's a place of wonder and magic, he said, looking off to the distance. We were instant friends, and I got out of my first day funk. He had to get off before I did, so I was lonely for a few minutes before I got off. Luckily, I had my book with me. Once I was dropped off, I walked inside and let the dogs out of their prison at the kitchen. The dogs. Dogs. Lola! Lola! I shook myself awake and was pushed back into the painful reality of my life. My body didn't hurt as much as before, and the room was brighter, if possible. My dad was the only one in the room this time. Daddy? He was startled that I had suddenly broken the silence. Gemma? He approached my bedside. What happened to Lola? Did she end up okay? Honey, I'm sorry. I felt tears swelling in my eyes. My dad seemed to notice and sat back down, giving me peace to grieve. I cried myself back to sleep. This time I was at my old elementary school picking up trash at the playground. It was currently November, and I was doing community service for some goody-goody program at school my mom wanted me to do. I was singing, off-key, and dancing to the music with a plastic trash bag in my hand. Stop! My eardrums are bleeding! Beth clutched the sides of her head and dramatically fell over, and hurt herself in the process. Caesar and I were struggling to keep the giggles in, but not too hard. Just enough so Beth wouldn't hurt us instead of herself. Shut up! She stuck her tongue out at us. Really, Zarn? I would expect this from Gemma, but not you. Zarn. Such a lovely name. Though it's surely better than Caesar. Anyway, one day I was talking with my dad in the car when he told me that Caesar was pronounced Kazar. Then someone, that someone being a beautiful girl whose name starts with a J, leaked that Caesar had tried to learn how to knit. Thus, the birth of Zarn. Really, guys, please. A burst of giggles interrupted my sentence. I shot a sharp look at Zarn. Please help. This isn't a one-man job. You're right, it's a two-women job. He smiled at his own joke. I don't see any women here, so let's just go home. Beth whined from the ground. You're no fun. Let's just go to my house and watch TV while stuffing ourselves with fatty food, I suggested. Huzzah! They agreed in unison. After collecting the trash we made, not the stuff we were there to pick up, we started walking in the direction of my house. The few minutes of silence were broken when Beth started singing, at the top of her lungs, an off-key version of the latest stupid song. So, of course, I joined in with her. I woke up to the radio playing that exact song before, I guess, being turned off. I opened my eyes to find a doctor in front of me. Well, I'm glad to see you're awake, he smiled kindly. So it seems you only have a couple of broken ribs, a broken arm, and a fractured ankle. Only? I weakly asked. It's better than dying. His laughter dies after a moment of seeing my expression. Sorry, shouldn't joke about that. Yeah. We'll still keep you in the hospital for a week or two because of the amount of blood you've lost. We want to make sure you're all right before we let you go. I look away from him and see Zarn waiting behind him. Zarn! Yay, a friend! I guess I should let you two have your space. The doctor, whose name I didn't know, walked out. Hey, I didn't know I'd tease you so much you would throw yourself onto a moving vehicle, he chuckled. I noticed he was holding something. Flowers? Yeah, you're supposed to get someone flowers if they're in a hospital. He set them on my bedside table. I would have preferred a stuffed animal, but whatever. I felt a smile on my lips. Where's Beth? She was a crying mess. You wouldn't have wanted to see her. Of course I would have. She's my best friend. He looked hurt at my comment. I thought I was your best friend, he whined. No, you're my second best friend. Best guy friend. Well, I'm taking back the flowers then. He grabbed the flowers and turned to leave, but stopped at hearing my cry of pain. I had tried and failed to sit up. He turned around and winced at my look of pain. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not your fault. I'm just still not used to this. I managed a weak smile. Okay, if you say so. He was obviously not convinced. I should be going. Homework and all. Yeah, of course. See ya. I'm sure my disappointment showed. Bye, he whispered and tiptoed out the door. I pulled the flowers into my lap and picked at the petals, gently tearing a few into tiny pieces. I sighed. This place was boring. I was too tired to read, and the remote for the TV was out of my reach. A yawn escaped from my mouth. That's right. Sleepy bye time. This time, I wasn't myself. Well, at least not the me I am today. I'm guessing I was around 5-ish, according to the bangs and straight hair. Horrible fashion choice. Glad it was my grandmother's, not mine. I was in kindergarten then, and we were on a class trip to the local pumpkin farm. The bus was crowded, the food was horrible, and the whole place was muddy. But, of course, I was a silly little kindergartner, not minding anything and just trying to enjoy life. If only we grew up like that, life would be so much better, the world would be better. I'm getting distracted. I had the most fun a 5-year-old could have, running around, getting dirty, and screaming at the top of my lungs. I loved it. Why am I dreaming about these memories? I had woken enough to be able to think. Why? There's got to be some sort of pattern, some logic I can't see. I've never dreamed about my memories before the car accident. Mumbling could be heard from the group of 3 in front of my hospital bed. She, how, and why drifted towards me, though I couldn't make out the rest. A shrill cry pierced the almost silent room. My parents and the doctor stepped aside to reveal Beth. Beth! I joyously exclaimed. You're here! Soren said you were a mess, but I don't think... She interrupted me with a hug. Oh, I'm so glad to see you. It's already been 2 weeks, and I miss you every day. She cried what I hoped was tears of joy. 2 weeks? I looked over at my parents, and they nodded in confirmation. Wow. We've got so much to catch up on, and I just... Can we get a little privacy? Talk about girl stuff, you know? Of course, said the doctor in his deep voice. We'll be in the cafeteria, honey. Just call us if you need us. I plucked up your phone by your bedside table. Of course. As soon as they left, she burst into a new set of tears, obviously sad ones. What's wrong? I asked worriedly. I won't be able to hiccup see you for much longer. Gasp. And there's so much Her voice broke. Whoa, Beth, calm down. Are you moving or something? Is that why you won't be able to see me for much longer? You mean? Gasp. Don't know? They haven't hiccup. Told you? She sniffled and tried to compose herself. Keyword, tried. Well, it's not my right to tell you then. Her face brightened with a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Oh my gosh, have you heard the news? I guess not. Tommy and Zoe got together. Tell me. I placed my hand gently on hers. Please, most of the time here I spend sleeping, and the rest of the time I'm either eating or going to the bathroom. I never get another chance to be told. Okay, maybe I was exaggerating, but not by much. This time her own tears cut her off. She consumed me in a hug, practically strangling me. Wait a second. A secret she shouldn't tell me, but that I should probably already know. I was hit by a car. I was in the hospital. The mumbling in front of my bed. The cry Beth had made as soon as she came in wasn't an excitement. It was shock, fear, sadness, and pain. I was going to die. My mind was racing, my heart was racing, and I'm sure my feet would be too if I wasn't strapped to this bed. Did you overhear my parents talking about it? My voice was weaker than it had been, even when I had just woken up from the accident. Is that why you screamed? I felt her nod yes. I grasped her tighter. I was going to die. All those books I wouldn't read, the shows I wouldn't see, the music I wouldn't hear. I would never get to see little Kinsey grow up to be the wonderful person I'll know she'll become. I would never know my mom's future boyfriend, the one I'll know she'll get because she's so amazing. I would never get my first kiss, my senior prom, to drive a car. I never got to say goodbye to Zarn. I was going to die. Yet, despite all this, I wasn't crying. Sure, I was sad, mostly for my friends and family, but also myself. I was going to die alone, like all of my friends had joked. Except I wasn't, really. I had my friends, Zarn and Beth. I had my parents and my grandparents, my uncles and my aunts, and my cousins and their cousins, too. I never really was alone. I was going to die, but I was going to die peacefully. That night, I had a whole torrent of dreams, from my best memories to my worst, my youngest to my oldest, the ones I didn't remember until then, and the ones I could never forget. I always figured your life would flash before your eyes right before you died. My death was slow, but it wasn't painful. It was like I was falling, like those dreams you have and then you jerk yourself awake. Like that, but also like flying. Falling to my death sounds horrible, yet flying to my death sounds like I committed suicide. How about falling gracefully to my death? But how could something so evil as death be graceful? Anyway, I was falling, flying, whichever, into the light. It was brighter than bright, and I was looking into the sun instead of being blinded. I could feel my body healing. My broken leg, my skinned elbows, even the mental scar from being hit by a car. The light was beautiful. The light was a pair of headlights. Suddenly, it was raining again. My clothes soaked, my mind imprinted with the thoughts of catching Lola. She wasn't dead. I wasn't dead. I was never hit by a car. It was all in my mind. I was alive. To keep that statement true, I ran into the grass of someone's yard, though it turns out I didn't need to. The car had stopped when they had seen Lola and I, and then it went on its way when we were out of the road. A whizzing sound of a bike reached my ears. Zarn. He had been behind the car the whole time. He stepped off and ran after her. In just a few moments he had Lola in his arms. By then the shock had passed. I really wasn't dead. I ran to him and engulfed him in a hug, Lola squirming between us. Thanks, I said in between sniffles of happy tears. Hey, is something wrong? He pulled away after making sure I had Lola and looked into my eyes. Nope, everything's perfectly fine. I closed my eyes and hugged her close to me. Okay. He gave me a skeptical glance. Just know that if you need someone to listen, I'm always here. Of course. The smile on my face was genuine. See you tomorrow. He inched back to his bike. See ya.